Hello everyone, Tom here for Talking Wolves, summarising another disappointing summer transfer window for the team. Another manager thrown under the bus by, in my opinion, what I believe to be an ownership completely devoid of ambition and ideas and, crucially, identity. Really disappointing. I know that we've spent a lot of money, but the club have still made a profit this season of around £13 million. This is extremely disappointing again because they still seem to be going for this profit and sustainability. And yes, we've spent a lot of money, but we've spent a lot of money on unknown quantities. And you can't honestly say that any of the players that we've lost have been replaced by adequate replacements. They're all very unknown quantities, and we don't know if they're going to adapt, how long that's going to take, and if they'll adapt at all. And it's a huge risk again that Frosin are playing with our Premier League status to only leave us with two starting central midfielders. Yes, I know we have Bellegarde and Menezzi, but I think for me, Bellegarde can't play that position. And Menezzi is always going to be out on the wing, really, under Pereira. So essentially, we have Andre and Gomez. They're too similar. They're prone to bookings. So once one of them gets injured or suspended, what do you do? And then we have Afcon. Menezzi's gone. Agbadu's gone. What do you do when those two go? So it's really concerning. The two wide 10 positions, we signed two players, Arias and Lopez. They could both be very good players, but again, injuries or suspensions, who comes in for them? Because the most sort of profiled name that we have to play on the wing could maybe be Hwang Hee-chan or Enzo Gonzalez. 8 seasons in the Premier League, and those are our options. It's really frustrating, really frustrating. I feel like we've left ourselves short. Loaning out Traore and Doyle without replacements coming in. I mean, seriously, this is like the third or fourth window that we've done this. We did it under Large with Adama. We've done it with Gary O'Neill with the players that we sent out on loan, and obviously we ended up with a bunch of academy players in the forward positions. Just, it amazes me. I mean, we were led to believe that this was a summer that the ownership were going to learn from the mistakes. Obviously not, because we've left ourselves short on depth again. In terms of the players that we've actually brought in, I don't mind them. I really don't. I think they look like they could be really smart acquisitions, but you can't afford to be smart and tricky and try and do a Brighton when we haven't really done that for any sort of time we've been in the Premier League. Yes, we've sold players for a profit, but we don't have a consistent record of doing that. So to not invest in the depth, I think, is a huge risk. And even though the players that we've brought in look really solid, again, a Rocadare, I think that's a good centre forward signing, looks very promising, but he doesn't even seem like he's match fit, so that's a bit of a risk at the moment. So overall, just disappointing because a profit made and we've left ourselves short in terms of the squad. And serious questions now got to be asked of this ownership if they weren't already being asked anyway. We've been lied to summer after summer, increasing season ticket and match ticket prices, pricing out the so-called legacy fans, and just completely demoralising this club. Everything is flat, and we needed, and Vitor Pereira said this, we needed, apart from a Rocadare, we needed an attacking midfielder, and I think we definitely needed another central midfielder and another player to play in the wide 10 position. We haven't brought that in, but we've just got to get behind the lads now. Yes, we don't have a great deal of options, but we just have to get behind them until January and just hope that Vitor Pereira can get something out of this side. For me, my rating for this window, 4 out of 10, 4 or 5 out of 10. Could push it to a 6 or a 7 if these signings come off, but again, Fosun have let another manager down and another team down. But for us, we've just got to get behind the boys and just support them the best we can.
Oh dear. Massive, massive oh dear. Again. Oh God. You think it can't get any worse, season after season after season. But it can. To quote the dulcet tones of Mick McCarthy, it can. I can't quite believe at about 4 p.m. this afternoon, I've had a notification said that Wolves are done after they've tried to get Josh Brownhill in. What, is that it? Is that what we've come to? It's absolutely baffling to me. We've been absolutely crying out for some sort of creative, some sort of attacking, some sort of Premier League ready players to come into this football team to keep us up. And I've no doubt that the players that we have brought will help us along the way. But right now, I don't think they will. You've got players who have come from bloody La Liga who have barely played any games. South America who've played a lot of South American football, but have never played in this country. And that's the type of signing we're looking at each season, and it's so baffling to me, the fact that they've looked at this window and gone, no, we don't need a midfielder. We'll be all right with just João Gomez and Andre up until January if we can. It's absolutely crazy. And I'd say I'm shocked, but I'm not. Because the absolute idiots who are running this football club have not got a clue what they are doing. Every other club in the Premier League today scrambling to get stuff done for positions that they desperately need. And there's us. Well, we might sign somebody. We might bring somebody in. And then gets to 4 p.m, 3 hours before the window shuts, and we're not even bothering to try anymore. That's the sorry state of this football club at the moment. And until something happens at the top, a change, it needs them to just go, really. And until that day comes, I can only see Wall's trajectory going down, unfortunately. I do think we will go down. I don't think you can leave, after watching these 3 games, think that this team is good enough to stay in the Premier League, because it's not. We've known that. We've known that since pre-season. Yet they still got rid of Cunha, Ait-Nouri, Semedo, Sarabia, Guedes, all players last season who helped us, help us win games. And yet they've replaced them with mediocrity, which is crazy. And it's upsetting, and it's all the emotions that you could think that aren't good anyway. So, yeah, annoying, frustrated, angry, done, to be honest. I can't even be asked to get angry at them or, shout my head off, because what is the point? Nothing changes. They won't change. They've set us up for failure. They're happy with failure by the looks of things. They're happy to profit their 12 million or whatever they've made over this course of the transfer window. And we're just here to pay £800 to watch the absolute dross that we get on the pitch. So, I suppose, don't be sad, mate. That's, oh God, I just hate it. Sod it. Close and out. See you later.
So, Wolves' summer transfer window for the 25-26 season is done and dusted. I'm just here to give you my thoughts on the window itself, how it panned out, my thoughts on the window, how deadline day works out for us. Overall, I have to say it's immensely disappointing. At the start, I thought we were far too slow to get into the market. We saw teams around us flying, bringing in players left, right, centre, really splashing the cash. The teams that have come up, really building on the momentum of coming into the Premier League, which is what the sides of last year should have been doing. As they came into the season far too weak. But you've seen the likes of Sunderland, even Leeds to an extent, Burnley less so, but Sunderland in particular really making a statement in the market of their intention to stay in the league for years to come. For us, just stagnating. Once again, stagnating. We have an opportunity under Vitor Pereira to really make a statement of intent ourselves, really build on what was a good part of the season last year. We tailed off, yes, but we could have really hit the ground running after making big sales in the likes of Cunha and Ait-Nouri. Semedo obviously going on a free. 3 massive losses that we really, really needed to fill with proven quality. Doesn't always have to be Premier League quality, because I see that term get floated around. Quality is quality, and we haven't filled those chasms that have been left by those three players with any quality whatsoever. I'm not convinced by those who have been brought in yet. Jury's still out on the likes of Arias and Wolfer and Jackson, Chachua, but I'm not convinced they're going to be the players to really catapult us back up to where we needed to be. Wolves fans, our kind of expectations have lowered and lowered as the seasons have gone by, where we now kind of dream of 13th, 12th place finishes, which is disappointing in itself. But to see us not even work the backroom staff in terms of at board level, not putting the money forward or not getting signings over the line quick enough, it's left us in a very, very difficult situation. And I'm not expecting much from this season at all. I'm almost resigned to the fact that we are going down this year unless we spend a massive amount of money in January. But then that's just the pattern going over and over again, right? So not a lot to be excited about. Deadline day was a complete and utter failure. Mood amongst Wolves fans is low. But all we can do now is get behind the team, get behind the squad, get behind the manager, and see what we can do in this first half of the season. So I'd give, honestly, an honest rating. I would give the window a 4 out of 10 at best. We can see if it moves to maybe a 6, but I'm not confident at all. See you next time.
The summer 2025 transfer window has shut, and Wolves have finished in a net profit for the third summer in a row, which for Fosun and Jeff Shee, I'm sure they'll be delighted about. For myself and many other fans included, it is a worrying time for Wolves in a summer where the penny had allegedly dropped and they needed to spend, and Fosun had realised that they needed to spend more than break even in order to push the club forward and keep them competitive in the Premier League. It's a summer of which they haven't done that, and we were in fact lied to through many various channels. It wasn't a good window for Wolves. I think you would struggle to find a Wolves fan that would say it was. Now, you can lose, and we were expecting to lose Cunha, probably Aït-Nouri and Semedo, but it's about how you replace them and who you replace them with. And Wolves have replaced these players with players that have never played in the Premier League before, never played a minute in the Premier League before. They've spent the guts of £85 million on these new players, if you don't include Strand Larsen's obligation to buy fee. And, none of them, you would say, maybe scarcely Wolves fans would have really known a whole lot about before they signed, and you'd say that is quite concerning in itself, considering the quality that did leave the club. Dominico Tetti, of course, came in at the start of July after Matt Hobbs left the club, whose recruitment had been decent. I wouldn't say it was amazing, but I wouldn't say it was bad either. His recruitment had been decent, and the whole restructuring of the club to get signings in to suit Vitor Pereira's style. And, well, they seem to have got the guts of a lot of their targets, but it seems like the squad is now significantly weaker than it was last season, and that would be a big concern. Of course, Cunha, Aït-Nouri, Fabio Silva, Guedes, Semedo, Sarabia, some of the biggest names leaving. Of course, Tommy Doyle and Boubacar Traoré going out on loan. Wolves managed to take in over £120 million in terms of sales, which is really good in terms of having enough to reinvest in the squad. If you had a set transfer budget before that, you would be looking at maybe 200 million to spend, but they weren't. They didn't have a set transfer budget. They were spending what they took in for the third year in a row, and that is only going to end one way. Clubs like Brighton are able to do that effectively, but Wolves have shown so far that they probably aren't able to do it as effectively. In terms of who came in, of course, Larsen's obligation was triggered. Tolu Akadore signed yesterday, transfer deadline day, £24 million, and I feel sorry for him because his arrival was shrouded in negativity after the loss to Everton and everything else that came with it, and the lack of a midfield signing where Wolves are desperately short in now. And every year we seem to leave ourselves short up front. Of course, when Sasa got injured, we signed Diego Costa 2 years ago. When we started the season last year with 3 or 4 centre-backs and we went to a 3-back, we were completely stranded. Krejci signed, a lot of money. Hopefully he can be good for Lopez as well. Coming in, looked the brightest of the signings so far, I would say. Jackson Chichawa, Davin Mola-Wolfit, new wing-backs, significantly weaker than Aït-Nouri and Semedo, you have to be honest. But hopefully they can make an impact for Vitor Pereira's team that has lost a lot of quality, and the question is, have they replaced them? Arias has struggled early on, hopefully he can come good. But yeah, I would say all in all, a transfer window where Wolves have been made significantly weaker, whilst other teams around them, Burnley have just come up, Sunderland have just come up, Leeds have just come up, have all strengthened, and the clubs in the division last year have all strengthened as well. It's a worrying time for Wolves. Jeff Shee, Fosun, something's got to give. Jeff Shee, his head will be on a plate, you would say, pretty soon if this summer transfer window results in Wolves being down towards the bottom of the Premier League come Christmas, which I'm sure we will, but not to worry. I'm sure they'll throw a load of money with a new manager bounce in January and might just be able to get us out of trouble. Because make no mistake, this window's been a solid, I would say, 2 to 3 out of 10 for Wolves. Concerning times, bad investment, third year in a row they finished in the green. If you want to go forward as a club, you've got to spend some money, and Folsom just seem to have no interest in doing that. The pennies dropped. Do me a favour. The only thing that's dropping is Wolves as it stands. So yeah, hopefully these new signings can come in and do some good, but you would be cautiously optimistic at best about how Wolves' season is going to go. But we move on into the international break, come back, kept hold of Stranelhausen in the end, which was good, but lost a lot of quality, and hopefully they've replaced them adequately, otherwise it could be a long season.
First of all, thank you, Dave, for having me on. Yeah, I mean, I feel bad for whoever was doing the reporting yesterday at Wolves, because it was a busy day, wasn't it? Loads of signings, loads of new players and whatnot. But here we are. I think the biggest problem for me, anyway, was the lack of plan and direction in the transfer window. It felt like we were always kind of chasing ourselves to try and find like a replacement for someone that we already sold. I mean, Cunha not only went, when the Club World Cup was going on, and we already knew that, and it took us a while to get in Arias and Wolf. That's fine, that's fine. We got the replacements in. I like Arias. I think he hasn't found the perfect role for him yet. I think he's probably better, behind the front two. And Wolf has been okay. And then it took us a while to replace Semedo. I mean, that saga was too long, and that summed up our transfer window. Chachu has been alright. Fer Lopez has probably been the best signing that we've made. That's made an impact. Crazy, we've only seen 20 minutes. And then, the new striker, Ara Kadare, he looks very good from the Belgium League. Interesting. I'm actually excited to watch him, which is, the thing is, it's like, the big thing is, like, I'm actually excited to watch our, new signings, but it's like, why is it taking us so long? Why did it take us so long to try and even find a replacement midfield-wise? Because about 40 days ago, we loaned out Traore and Doyle, which is fine, but then it's fine if you're going to replace them, which we didn't, and now we're left with Andre João Gomez and Bellegarde and Menetzi, and I don't know who looks at that and goes, you know what, that's all right. Like, I don't know, it's just baffling to me. And then centre backs wise, we needed another centre half. I mean, Abadou's not started one. Also, he's going to AFCON. I mean, we needed another forward player, mainly a left 10, and we didn't get any of them. And it's like, I look at that squad, I'm like, it just, again, felt like it felt like no plan, no direction. Pereira not got what he's wanted. And again, that's a similar cycle to Large, O'Neill, Lopetegui, where he's not been backed in the summer window. We started poorly. He might get sacked by November. We spend 100 million in January. They keep us up. Get a new manager. They keep us up, and then they don't get back to the summer window next season, and it's like a cycle. But yeah, I mean, now we just got to back the lads, back the gaffer, and hopefully we get some form. Because I am excited about the players we brought in, but it's just like where are the actual like proper additions to the squad, like midfield and defensive wise. But yeah, thank you, Dave, for having me on.
So the transfer window closed yesterday. Overall, I'd probably say a disappointing end for Wolves, especially deadline day. But let's start with the positives. I think we did make 3 or 4 quality signings. Fer Lopez, from what we've seen, a very promising player, has a lot of potential. Craigie, Arias, Tolu, I'd say those are 3 Premier League quality players that will definitely start and improve our team if played in the right system. But I'd say that's about the only positives that we can take. I think there's a lot more negatives than positives. We haven't replaced Cunha properly. That's a glaring issue. It was always going to be difficult to replace his quality, but we haven't really bought a direct replacement for that creativity that he brought to us. Fullback's also a big issue. Your club captain Semedo leaves and you replace him with Chachua and Kijana Hoover, two very unproven players. Not ideal. Same goes with Aid Nuri, probably one of the best fullbacks in the Premier League, and you replace him with Mola Wolf, who hasn't really shown much so far. So yeah, it's going to be tough. And then obviously the glaring issue is that there's absolutely no midfield depth. We've got two, maybe three at a stretch if you're counting Bellegarde as a midfielder. We've maybe got three midfielders. As a Premier League team, you're not going to be able to compete. One suspension, which Joao, we know, gets yellows and the occasional red card. Same with Andre. We're going to have to see Monetsi or Bellegarde playing that midfield, and that's not something we really want to see. I mean, we saw at Bournemouth how Bellegarde played. He doesn't suit how we want to be physical in that midfield. He doesn't fit the profile that I think Vitor wants to. And then again, making profit in the transfer window, 13.5 million if the calculations are correct. To make profit as a Premier League club, you're not going to be able to compete if you look at the spending of all the other teams around us. So yeah, we all know the issues. It stems from Foss and it stems from the owners. Unfortunately, there's not much we can do. As fans, we can make noise, we can protest, but at the end of the day, there's not really much that we can do to change the owners. So obviously, ideal scenario is that they sell, but who knows if that's going to happen. Overall, I'd probably give us a 5 out of 10 if I'm being generous for this transfer window. We neglected a few areas definitely, but although a few quality signings, so probably give it a 5 out of 10.
Another predictable and disappointing window for Wolves, linked with a lot of players that we couldn't get over the line, as per usual. A squad that's a lot weaker than it was last season. Lost a lot of creativity that we haven't replaced. I suppose the only positive was keeping Alder Larson, but I can't believe they haven't took the money that was offered for him, to be honest. And if it was going back into the team, I'd probably say, yeah, Dewey at the start of the window. But you've got no faith in him putting it in the right place anyway. So it's probably a good job he stayed. Letting the likes of Doyle and Traoré go out on loan and then not signing a midfielder is just ridiculous. And, well, we're a lot weaker than we were last season. I think there's only one way we're going with that. I think there's every chance the manager walks, and I can't really blame him, to be honest, the state we're in. But we'll see. I'm hoping I'm proved wrong, but I can't see it.